Do you want to build around Nathan Drake on a budget? Well, I have just the list for you. Hello everybody and welcome back into the fort where we make magic more accessible for everyone. My name is Tyler Saves Ya Bucks and we're talking about Nathan Drake, everyone's favorite adventurer. This just got released for the PlayStation Secret Lair, so if you've picked it up or you're still in line trying to get it, you might be asking yourself, what deck can I brew around this awesome commander? Well, I am here to help with that. This is a budget list that I originally did for EDH Rec. Doing it here as well. You can get this for about $40, so let's not waste any more time and get right into it by looking at Nathan Drake himself. It is blue, black, and red for a 3/2 human rogue with first strike. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast spells you don't own or activate abilities of permanents you control but don't own. Whenever Nathan Drake attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. You may cast a spell from among those cards. What's interesting about this is it will not obey timing rules. So if you exile a creature from somebody, you can cast it basically at instant speed. And also it exiles your cards at the same time. So there's some things in this deck that like being cast from exile or a couple other tricks you can do with this commander. But one of the first things you need to do first is help Nathan attack through. It is an attack trigger, so you want to be getting that every single turn you have Nathan out. Let's take a look at some of those with Thieves Tools. It's a 2-mana equipment. When it enters, you make that treasure. An equipped creature can't be blocked if it has power 3 or less. Nathan has 3 power on its own. We're going to see a lot of spells that give evasion to our commander. We're also going to see some other tricky ways to help get your commander through. And while this isn't a Voltron deck where you're trying to build Nathan up and be the biggest creature and kill people with commander damage necessarily, what you're trying to do is just give it evasion so you can attack. And then say you draw some more of these evasive cards into your hand, you're probably going to be casting spells off of other people's libraries or other spells in your deck, not necessarily that have to do with that. So we're going to talk about a lot of evasion here, and you don't have to throw all of it on Nathan all at once. These things can just help pave the way, and you can add a few more to give some more effects, but it's not necessarily the whole game plan. And you'll see as we go along. Cartouche of Knowledge, it's 2 mana, enters, draws a card, +1/+1, and it gets flying. Again, like that, you can put this on Nathan if it already has evasion. Giving a little power boost is nice. Drawing a card is also nice. Cliffhaven? Yeah, Kite Sail. 1 mana when it enters, you just attach it to a creature and it has flying, so 1 mana for flying isn't too bad. We'll see more cards that do that as well, like this right here. It gives flying and +1/+1. You can also return it to your hand if you need to put it on something else. Again, some of these evasive cards you can be putting on the other creatures in this deck, or some of the creatures that you steal. You can put some of these equipment or auras onto them to help them attack through and deal more damage. Cloak of the Bat. This is really good for, say, like a late game play because it gives flying and haste equipped too. If you have a bunch of mana and you just recast Nathan, this is a way to give evasion and haste and attack right away and get your game plan right back and moving. And also, Dominic Mayer, this is one of the craziest arts for a common that I've ever seen. I love this card so much. Do you have prints? I might want a print of this. All right, moving on. Arcane Flight, +1/+1, and flying. This card is really, really cute. And I once got my partner into Magic, and I knew they would enjoy this art here. So I got a playmat off of eBay with this art, and it arrived in a box that was about this big. And I realized I got like a playmat that was like this, but they still use it all the time. So, it's not just sentimental for me to put in this deck. It is actually pretty useful when you're trying to swing through with Nathan. We have Fly. Can you guess what this does? Fly is actually really cool because of giving the flying, but the fact that it also allows you to venture into the dungeon. I think if you have a deck where you want to add some evasion to it, this is a good card to do that. It's not too expensive to cast and also not too expensive to buy. And then venturing into the dungeon, there's so many options when you go into the different dungeons to scry, make a skeleton and other stuff like that, that it adds more variety to the deck and gives the evasion like we were talking about. Plus, I mean, let's just call it what it is. Nathan definitely ventures into the dungeon, so there had to be a little bit of that in this deck. Security bypass, it makes your creature unblockable when it attacks alone, and then it also connives, so you can grow Nathan a little bit more and more and cycle through your deck. Assassin Gauntlet, this is kind of an interesting one. It enters, attach it to one of your creatures, and then you tap all creatures target opponent controls. Gets your creature +1/+1, and when it deals damage, you loot. What's cool about this is the fact that for 3 mana, you just tap down somebody's board. If it's the player to your right, and then you hit them, and then you basically give everybody else free range to hit them as well, that can help take somebody out in the mid to late game if they're a problem. Moving on, apparently, I tapped very quickly. Rune of Mortality. 2 mana, draws you a card, but also it gives your commander Death Touch. Nathan has First Strike, which means it will hit the creature that blocks it or that he blocks as well first and kill it before it can deal damage to him. It's just a nice little kind of tricky way to work with the Death Touch and the First Strike. Shimmering Wings, this is flying, all that. Aqueous Form, this may be the best one of these cards for this deck. Gives your creature unblockable while also scrying you 1 when it attacks. That just means it's going to attack through. You can look at the top card of your library, and what you don't want to do is hit lands in this deck. Nathan does not let you play lands. It lets you cast spells. So you can scry 1. Hey, there's a land on the top of my deck. Throw it to the bottom. And then you have a better chance of hitting something. There's some MDFCs in this list as well to have a spell on the front side and a land on the other. And that's part of the reason. I'm sorry I hit you, Mike. Okay, moving on. Zephyr Boots. It's just great. 1 mana, 2 to equip, flying, and allows you to loot when it deals that damage. Aether Tunnel, 2 mana, 1/0, and can't be blocked. Just sometimes it's just cleaner to eliminate any type of flying blockers or anything from the table. It's just like, you just can't block it. Mask of Riddles gives your creature fear, which is really cool because this looks like something that Nathan would try and steal in one of the games. And then when when the equipped creature deals damage to a player, you draw a card. Gorgon's Head, more dealing with that whole Death Touch side of things. Quite a Spike. This is the Death Touch scenario as well. At the same time, kind of a win condition. Whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses half their life rounded up. That's a quick clock if you already have a bunch of ways to give Nathan evasion, and then you're just casting other people's stuff, halving people's life totals. Pure chaos. Trailblazers Boots. Non-basic land walk is something that I find so cool and kind of funny, and I hope we see more cards with that effect. And that just feels like something Nathan should have. Trailblazers Boots, non-basic land walk. It fits, and also it's really good for the deck. Whisper Silk Cloak. Yes, like I said, you don't have to throw all of these evasion giving artifacts and auras and everything onto Nathan all the time, because giving Shroud to Nathan would prevent you from doing that. But at the same time, this is a way to just say, hey, you can't touch my game plan, and also you can't touch Nathan during combat. We've talked about casting stuff from exile. Memory Worm is something that works with it. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, it deals 2 damage to target player. That player discards a card, then draws a card, and you put a counter on this. It's a good 2-drop that you can get down the turn before you get Nathan out, as well as a way to disrupt somebody's hand, and possibly even deal yourself the 2 damage if you need to get rid of something and find an answer. Spider-Man 2029. This is not a card that you can cast the turn before Nathan, because you can't cast it for your first, second, or third turn of the game, but it has double strike, vigilance, and at the beginning of your end step, if you played a land or cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. It's not the craziest way, because like that, it's only 2 damage, but you can throw some of those giving +1/+1s onto this as well and give it evasion, plus deal more damage, lightning bolt people every single turn. It's a really cool card and not that expensive right now. Predator's Hour. This is 2 mana until end of turn. Creatures you control gain menace, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of that player's library face down. You may look at it and you may play it, all of that stuff. I'm not going to read every single one of these that says you may spend mana as though it was mana of any color, because that's on a whole lot of these. This is a cool way to give a lot of the creatures you have, including Nathan, kind of Nathan's ability. It's going to hit people. You're going to steal the top card of whoever you hit while also exiling the top card when Nathan attacks. It's a cool card for only 2 mana. Grenzo Havoc Razor. When a creature you control, any creature, deals combat damage to a player that you control, you can goad a creature that player controls, or you exile the top card of their library, and until end of turn you can cast it. It just kind of heightens that whole stealing and everything. Plus, goading is also a way to give some evasion, because you can goad something, now it has to attack, and it's probably going to be tapped after that. Van Street Thief. This helps scouts, pirates, and or rogues, which your commander is a rogue, because when they deal combat damage to a player, you exile the top card of their library, and you can cast it if you don't create a treasure token. Whenever you cast a spell you don't own, put a 1/1 counter on each scout, pirate, rogue you control. Notably, I will say this one does not say that you can spend mana as though it's mana of any color to cast these spells, but even so, you're gaining access to people's stuff. If you can't cast it, you're going to make that treasure token, which you can sacrifice it for a mana of any color to cast those things. Painful Truths, just a great card in a lot of 3-color decks. Sometimes it's a 3 mana draw 2, but most of the time you're able to work it out for it's a 3 mana draw 3. Blood-Soaked Insight. This is one of those MDFCs I talked about, where it is a spell on the front side, and then on the back side it is a tapped Rakdos land. But this is really interesting in the deck. Target opponent exiles the top 3 cards of their library. Until end of your next turn, you may play those cards. If you cast a spell this way, mana of any type. Okay, but it costs 1 less for each 1 damage or 1 life your opponents have lost this turn, which is very, very, very nice, especially if you hit somebody, then cast this afterwards. I just adore this card so much, because again, it's kind of a free slot there. It's a tapped land on the other side, but also it gives you access to your opponent's libraries. Night's Whisper, 2 mana, draw 2, lose 2. Atali. This is kind of what Nathan does. Nathan doesn't cast these cards for free, but Atali does. So this is basically like if Nathan was a dinosaur in a different life. When it attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. Then you may cast any number of spells from among those cards without paying its mana cost. Party Thrasher. Non-creature spells you cast from exile have Convoke. So Convoke is each creature that you control. You can tap it to help cast the spells, and tapping them pays for 1 generic or a color of that creature's color. Yeah, sure. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, you may discard a card. If you do, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You can choose one of them. You may play that this turn, but really it's for that Convoke ability, being able to exile a bunch of your opponent's stuff and help tap a bunch of creatures in order to cast some of it, maybe even for free, without utilizing your mana for that. Cunning Rhetoric. This is an enchantment for 3 mana. Whenever an opponent attacks you or one or more planeswalkers you control, exile the top card of that player's library. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. So this is a way to kind of deter people from attacking you while playing into the game plan of stealing everybody's stuff. Robber of the Rich is 2 mana for a 2/2. Reach and haste. Whenever it attacks, if defending player has more cards in hand than you, exile the top card of their library. During any turn you attacked with a rogue, you may cast that spell and spend mana. As always with mana of any color. Why this is so cool is because your commander is already a rogue. Yes, it's a 2/2, but this is another case where you can throw some of those evasive abilities onto this to help this attack freely through as well. Plarg and Nazari. 5 mana, 5/4. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. An opponent chooses a non-land card exiled this way. You may cast up to 2 spells from among the other cards without paying their mana cost. It's kind of a mini Atali every single turn, and you can be a little political with it. You can say, hey, if you allow me to cast the 2 spells I want to do, I'll be sure not to point them in your direction. Fey Flight is an uncommon that I love for so many decks, and I think people don't really notice how good it can be even in a generic deck. 2 mana with Flash for an aura, enchant a creature, and when this aura enters the battlefield, the enchanted creature gets hexproof until end of turn, but also +1 and +0 and has flying forever. What's great about this is the fact that somebody tries to Path to Exile your commander. 2 mana, you basically counterspell that targeted removal. And in this deck, Nathan is your game plan. So protecting him at really any cost is going to be great. Agent of Shadow Thieves. 2 mana, this is a background, so it says commander creatures you own have. Whenever this creature attacks a player, if no opponent has more life than that player, put a +1 counter on this creature. It gains Death Touch and indestructible until end of turn. I have this card in one of my Grixis decks. That's the Rani from Doctor Who, all about goading. She has an attack trigger, so I put this in the deck, and it does so much work because it gives that creature indestructible, plus it grows it a little bit. And then it still does the whole thing with Death Touch. Sometimes, even though you're not going to necessarily die from somebody blocking, you might not want them to get a lifelink trigger or something like that. So giving Nathan Death Touch onto that first strike is just adding insult to injury at this point. Lava Spur Boots. 1 mana, gives the creature +1/+0 and haste and ward 1 for only 1 equip. It's very similar to Swiftfoot Boots, giving the creature hexproof and haste with only 1 mana for the equip. Both are just really strong in the deck, and again, you're protecting your commander. Decadent Dragon, 4 mana for the dragon side. Flying, trample, 4/4. Whenever it attacks, create a treasure token. Very, very nice, but it does have that expensive taste. For 3 mana, it's a adventure. You can cast at instant speed, exile the top 2 cards of target opponent's library face down. You may look at them and play those cards for as long as they remain exiled. That's another one where it doesn't let you use mana as though it's mana of any color, but this other side of the card allows you to make treasure tokens. This card is just really strong because of that 2-for-1 ability that it has. Curse of Opulence, you're going to be attacking pretty much every turn, so might as well get this down as early as possible, make some gold tokens as the game goes on, and it helps cast some of those cards, again, that don't give your the spells that you steal a way to cast them for mana of any color. Thieving Varmint. I adore this card. It has Death Touch, lifelink for 2 mana. It's a 2/1. It's a Varmint. You can tap it, pay 1 life, add 2 mana of any color, any 1 color, spend this mana only to cast spells you don't own. It's just so awesome, and the flavor of it is incredible. I could see this being a moment in one of the Uncharted games where some varmint steals a jewel and you have to go track it down. Maybe that is something. Put in the comments if that has happened in that game series. All right, Dark Ritual, one of my favorite cards in all of Magic. 1 mana for making 3 mana. Why this is so cool in the deck, I mean, I think it's cool in pretty much every deck, but in this deck is because of the fact that there are so many things that say you can spend mana as though it was mana of any color. So thus, making 3 black is basically 3 of any color at instant speed for 1 mana. That can just help you cast a lot of these spells that you need to hit when you steal stuff or have your commander exile people's cards. You find some prisoners. Okay, so we're going to look at some interaction, removal, and that type of thing. And you'll notice that pretty much all of them are modal spells, i.e. they have a couple options to do. And this is a good example of that. You can, for 2 mana, break their chains, destroy target artifact, or interrogate them. Exile the top 3 cards of target opponent's library. Choose one of them until end of your next turn. You may play that card and spend mana as though it's mana of any color. Why this is really good in this type of deck, and a lot of decks where you exile cards from the top of your library to cast, when you have modality to a card and it's almost random what you're going to be hitting off the top, it makes a lot of these not duds, if that makes sense. Now, I know you probably want to be casting your opponent's cards when you're playing this commander, but at the same time, you want to ensure that your deck is almost always going to give you a good hit when you exile the top card. If everybody exiles lands except for you and you find some prisoners, all of a sudden you can say, okay, well, there's no artifact around to blow up, but I can steal somebody else's things, or I don't want to steal somebody else's thing. I want to get rid of that artifact. It gives you more of a choice, and we'll see some more of those here. Dimir Charm. So there's all of the guilds that have, on Ravnica that have the charms. Dimir Charm is one of the least played ones of the entire cycle, but in this deck, it's actually very strong for that last ability. Let's read it. So it's 2 mana. Counter target sorcery spell. You can counter like a board wipe or something. Destroy target creature with power 2 or less. A lot of good creatures have power 2 or less, but it's the last one here that's the most interesting to me. Look at the top 3 cards of target player's library, then put one of them on top and the rest into that player's graveyard. Why that's so cool in this deck is, yeah, you could do it to yourself, but you could also do it to a specific player. When you're playing a deck where you're stealing from the table, you often find yourself being in a spot where you're like, I need to glom on to one specific player. And here's why. You attack with Nathan, you exile all this stuff, and somebody's playing an enchantment deck, and you take a cool enchantment from them. And then the next turn you do it again, and there's an enchantment payoff, and you take that. Now, 2 turns into this, you're going like, oh, I'm kind of playing an enchantment deck now, and you're going to keep stealing from that one person. If that's the case, Dimir Charm helps you huge, because now you can resculpt the top of their library and kind of go, okay, I want this exact card as you attack, and then you're able to hit that, and you know what you're going to get during that combat. I think it's really cool. Abrade, great card, play it in basically all my red decks. And again, it's one of those things where you're like, there's almost always going to be an artifact you want to destroy or something with 3 or less toughness that you want to kill. Is it Charm? Counter non-creature spell unless they pay 2, deal 2 damage to target creature, or draw 2, then discard 2. Another one where all the modes are kind of useful if you happen to hit it off the top. Feed the Swarm is basically a modal spell. You can destroy a creature or an enchantment. You do lose that life, but that's a way to, you hit it off the top, and it's like, okay, I'll snipe that creature at instant speed. Again, Nathan does not have you obey timing rules because you have to cast those spells right when you exile them. Prismari Command is one of the greatest cards when it comes to like modal decks. This is 3 mana, choose 2. You can deal 2 damage to any target, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, target player creates a treasure token, or destroy target artifact. These are all abilities that you'll probably find pretty useful if you need to cast this at a moment's notice. Rakdos, Charm. Some decks just hate seeing this across the table because you can exile somebody's graveyard. That's their entire game plan. Of course, destroy an artifact. We've seen that's good. But also, each creature deals 1 damage to its controller. If there's somebody out there that has a bunch of goblins or squirrels and all of a sudden this can just kill them and it's a random card you hit off the top, kind of cool. Chaos Warp. Yes, it's not a modal spell, but it is just something that there's almost always a target you just want to have somebody shuffle away. Heartless Conscription. This is the only board wipe I put in the deck because honestly, in this deck, you're going to be playing everybody at the table's decks and you might hit board wipes off of them anyway. But this is just too good not to add in the deck. Yes, it is 8 mana, but let's read it. Exile all creatures. For each card exiled this way, you may play that card for as long as it remains exiled and spend mana, all of that stuff, and then you exile this spell. What's cool about this is the fact that there's so many things that work off of you casting other people's spells already that getting rid of the entire board, you're able to take everything you need at that time and basically hodgepodge a win together, and I love that type of thing. Sundering Eruption, this is one of the other modal double face cards on the other side. It's basically an untapped if you have to pay that 3 life. But what it does on that front side is destroy target land. Its controller may search the library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Creatures without flying can't block this turn. That is pretty nice. Say this is in your hand already. I mean, it's good to hit off the top as well, but if it's in your hand already, that's a way to make somebody's board not be able to block Nathan, while at the same time you're dealing with somebody's really good, Gaia's Cradle if you play against that, or Field of the Dead or that type of thing. An offer you can't refuse. It's just a really good card, and sometimes you just need like a 1 mana. Hey, I'm gonna stop your whole game plan, and you just go, nope. And that's what this card allows you to do. Petty Larceny, 4 mana, but it has free running. So if your commander has dealt damage to a player this turn, you can cast it for that 2 mana. Look at the top 2 cards of target opponent's library and exile those cards face down. You may play those cards for as long as they remain exiled and mana of any type, etc. But then you also make a treasure token. So for the 2 mana ability, that's very strong. Outrageous Robbery. I really love this card. I think I opened it during a stream when I was doing MKM back in the day. It is X black for an instant. Target opponent exiles the top X cards of their library face down. You may look at and play those cards for as long as they remain exiled. If you cast a spell this way, you can spend mana. It's really great because of the fact that you steal those cards and they're face down. So people don't even know how, they know how many cards you took from them, that they don't know what those cards are. And they might be trying to search for an answer and going like, oh man, does, the Nathan Drake player have the card I'm trying to find? And that's a really tricky thing. Did I skip over a card? Yes, I did. Dire Fleet Daredevil is 2 mana, 2/1 first strike. When it enters the battlefield, exile a target instant or sorcery card from an opponent's graveyard. You may cast it this turn, spend mana as though it's any type, and then exile it. It's kind of a one-time way to just nab somebody's really good instant or sorcery. All right, moving on. And now the next one, Laughing Jasper Flint. It makes creatures you own, creatures you control but don't own, mercenaries, which is an outlaw, and also at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top X cards of target opponent's library, where X is the number of outlaws you control. Until end of turn, you may cast those spells and spend mana as though it's mana of any color. I really love this commander. I named it my favorite commander of 2024, and it's really good in this deck because obviously your commander is an outlaw, it's a rogue, and the fact that if you are casting creatures from your opponent's libraries, all of a sudden now they're helping you steal even more cards, and it's just, again, it's that snowball is rolling ever further down the hill. Thief of Sanity is a 3 mana 2/2 flyer, deals combat damage to a player. Look at the top 3 cards of their library, exile one of them face down, put the rest in their graveyard. You may cast that spell for as long as it remains exiled. This is, yes, it's a one-directional thing. When this hits somebody, you steal something. But like I was saying earlier, if you are stealing, let's say, from that enchantment player, this now allows you to hit them and get another card during your combat. And that is just a way for you to ever stronger become an enchantment player or a token player or a burn player. Whatever you're stealing, having pointed ways to take stuff is still good when it comes to this deck. Don Andres, the Renegade. 4 mana. What's really cool about this is it doesn't help you steal cards, but when you do, it pays you off for it. Say you steal a creature, each creature you control but don't own gets +2/+2, has menace and death touch, and is a pirate in addition to its other types. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell you don't own, create 2 tapped treasure tokens. It being 4 mana is really good to put down right after you cast Nathan Drake, so that when you're hitting people, you're able to then cast those spells that you steal from them and make the treasure or make the creatures even better. Cruel Claw's heist is really funny. You can gift a card when you cast this, which means the opponent will draw a card, but then target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it, exile that card. If the gift was promised, you may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled. So it's another way to just yoink something out of somebody's hand completely. This is kind of a feel bad because people have plans when they're looking at their hand. When you steal off of the top of their library, it's not the greatest, but at least it wasn't in their hand and they're like, whatever. But for this deck specifically, this heist kind of makes a lot of sense to put in with Nathan Drake. That kind of looks like Nathan Drake if he was what is that? Oh, that's the Weasel. Nathan Drake could be a Weasel on Bloomburrow. Arcane Heist, more heists. So this is 4 mana for that sorcery. It also has Cipher, which means when you first cast this, you can put it on a creature, and then when that creature hits somebody, you cast this spell for free over and over and over again. With having so much evasion in this deck, that's a way to continually get this effect. What's the effect? Well, let's read it. You may cast target instant or sorcery card from an opponent's graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into the graveyard, exile it instead. You can't reuse spells that you're stealing over and over again, but it is still such a strong effect that every turn, not only are you exiling everybody's top card, but you're casting an instant or sorcery for free. Gonti, Night Minister. If people are really liking this, idea of stealing people's cards, now everybody can, because it says whenever a player casts a spell they don't own, that player creates a treasure token. So thus, you're already going to be benefiting off of that more than a lot of other people. But whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, that means anybody's creatures dealing damage to your opponents, its controller looks at the top card of that opponent's library and exiles it face down. They may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Mana of any type could be spent to cast it. You're hitting people, you're getting treasures, you're stealing more stuff. That's already what you're going to be doing. And then other people might go, well, I could attack the Nathan Drake player, but I could also attack this other player and steal their stuff and get treasures. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Gonti is such a great boon to this deck. Nightveil Spectre, it deals damage. When it deals combat damage to a player, you exile the top card of their library, and then you can cast those spells. Again, it's just another way to be very pointed and say, hey, I am jumping onto this singular player and trying to steal as many of their cards as possible. I will say, though, if you kill somebody in the game, all of their cards are going to go away. So you kind of do have to do a balancing act where it's like, if you keep going and hitting somebody over and over and over again, all of a sudden they die and then you lose your game plan. You kind of do have to finagle this a little bit. Dream Thief's Bandana. This is 2 mana, 1 to equip. Equipped creature deals combat damage to a player. Look at the top card of their library, exile it face down, and for as long as it's face down, you can cast it. Just another way. And again, you can put this on another creature. You can put this on Nathan. All that evasion is going to come through when you have all these effects that deal damage to people. Xanathar, Guild Kingpin, 6 mana. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose target opponent. Until end of turn, that player can't cast spells. You may look at the top card of their library anytime. You may play the top card of their library, and you may spend mana as though it was mana of any color. It's very good for that whole jumping onto the enchantment player, the burn player, the whatever the strategy is. All of a sudden, it's just like, this slams down and it's, you can't do anything right now, and I'm just going to look off the top of your library and steal your entire game plan. Oh, and now we are into the lands. I'm not going to go over all of these, but all of these are in budget. If you want to see a lot of my favorite budget lands in the format, I did an entire video covering over 100 budget dual lands that you can put in your decks that are very good, have ways to come into the battlefield untapped. Or if they do come into the play tap, they have something else they do, like the Scry lands, which are actually pretty good in this deck because you want to sculpt the top of your library a little bit. And I know what you might be thinking. Some of the cards that are in the, well, I think all of the cards that are also in the Nathan Drake Secret Lair, were not in this main deck that I just talked about. And I did that for a reason, because I don't want to assume that people got Nathan Drake by getting the Secret Lair. I know there's a lot of hard times that comes from trying to buy the Secret Lair, and you have to get it from the secondary market or buy a single. But I will go over some of those cards right now. Chain Reaction is good in the deck that I've constructed right now. Again, it's a board wipe. I didn't want to put too many board wipes in it, but this is just a pretty clean board wipe. So if you have this version, you could definitely put it in the deck. Midnight Clock, or King's Bay Clock Tower. Just a kind of good mana rock. Again, if you want to unchart the heck out of this deck, this is a good thing to throw in there. It'll still do work. Passionate Archaeologist is for sure a card you should put in this deck. It's another background, so commander creatures you own have, whenever you cast a spell from exile, this creature deals combat damage equal to the spell's mana value to target opponent. This is a way to just start dealing a whole bunch of damage to the table. And then I believe this is the last one, Whip of Erebos, or El Dorado Sarcophagus. Giving your creatures lifelink is good. You're going to kind of become an enemy in some of your games. So Nathan hitting for at least 3 every turn will help you kind of keep up with the rest of the table. And then you can return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Like I said, there are some cool cards in here that you could be doing that with. It's not necessarily something I would jump for putting in your Nathan Drake deck, but it'll probably still do some things, especially if you get a tally in your graveyard and you want to bring it right back and give it lifelink and all that other stuff. But that is Nathan Drake, so I'm going to throw it to you in the comments. Let me know if I missed anything. Are you still in line? Did you get the Secret Lair? Let me know all about it. If you want more budget content, please subscribe. Jump into the fort with me. I'm going to be doing a whole bunch more of this type of thing for Avatar. I've already done decks for Cabbage Merchant and one of the Zuko's, which you can see on EDH Rec, or I'm going to do videos about those very soon. So like I said, stay tuned. Please subscribe, like the video if this was helpful in any way. That helps me a lot. And yeah, go have fun adventuring out there, everybody. And I will see you next time right here in the fort. Goodbye.